You don't continue when the time has expired. They should have marched the article of impeachment over and started the trial immediately, but they didn't, and the Senate should have started the trial.
You know, Judge Starr, maybe it's hard for people to understand, certainly members of Congress. Sometimes Congress doesn't have power. Sometimes the Senate doesn't have power. What the House of Representatives did was a rush job on impeachment to try and catch the president before he left office. It was a phony impeachment. There were no hearings, no investigations, no witnesses, no due process, nothing. We don't do that in our country. Even when it comes to the impeachment clause, we don't treat individuals, whether they're president or they're private citizens, the way they do in communist China, the way they do in Iran, the way they do in Korea and other fascistic or communist regimes. And yet, in my view, that's exactly what took place in the House of Representatives. They gave 1 hour debate on each side. I have in front of me the document that supposedly supported what they were doing. It's 76 pages long, 26 pages of which are appendix, 50 pages of which are basically op-eds about why they think the president incited an insurrection. I've made the point, Judge Starr, if the president wanted to incite an insurrection, I don't think he'd send a couple hundred ragtag guys running into the Capitol building, you know, taking over chairs and doing that. So if he wanted to have an insurrection, he'd send in the United States Marines or something like that. When you read the president's speech, there was no incitement language there. People may not like what he had to say. People may not like the fact that he objected to the election. But you need a hell of a lot more to incite an insurrection than that speech he gave. And people looked at the timeline that the New York Times put out, because the New York Times found through a document and so forth that there was a lot of preparation before January 6th by these groups that wanted to storm the Capitol building. And the timeline showed that 20 minutes before the president finished his speech, these thugs attacked the Capitol building. And so we hear members of Congress use all kinds of language. We hear members of the media constantly bringing up the Third Reich and using all kinds of language. Of course, they never incite violence of any kind. And I'm watching this and I'm saying, would the framers of the Constitution really empower the Senate to chase down private citizens? And if they did, why didn't they say so? They were smart people. And if they did, why is this the first time in American history? Let's talk presidents. The first time in American history that it would ever be done. And I'm very concerned about this because when we come back in our next segment, Judge Starr, I see this kind of retribution that's taking place where the Democrats think they could prevent an individual from running for president again by twisting the Constitution. They don't get to do that. I see violations of separation of powers taking place with Joe Biden signing executive orders like he's the king. Just said, today I'm doing this, today I'm doing that, and I'm not taking any questions, by the way. I see the Democrats in the Senate using reconciliation on the budget process, which was intended to be the final stage of a deliberative process to try and get around the Republicans because they only have a 50-50 Senate there. I see them talking about packing the Supreme Court, breaking the Constitution on the District of Columbia by making it a state. You have to amend the Constitution to make the District of Columbia a state. I want to try and address all of these issues with you in the next couple of segments that we have.